Good morning. I wanted to just add a major point to what I've been posting recently. Um, the reason I'm beginning to mention names, including the name of Witness Lee, who that is so, I, I, I don't even know the word. It's so taboo, or it's so inflammatory, or it's so incredibly unacceptable in my church community that anyone who dares to mention the minister of the age in a light as I am mentioning him will definitely be excommunicated and will definitely be labeled as poisonous and will definitely be quarantined unless there's a change here. But the reason I have to mention names, and starting with Brother Lee, is that in my anguish, I began to realize that my sexual assault by Philip Lee was known to his father. Brothers went to Brother Lee with multiple cases of sexual assault, where Philip Lee was assaulting sisters, and nothing was done. I think eventually, I know because I was in the church in Anaheim, he was eventually, um, he was no longer the manager of the Living Stream Ministry, but there was no repentance. And in fact, there was an apology letter written by new elders in Anaheim, um, apologizing for how Philip was treated by the former elders who had tried to bring in a situation of righteousness, who had tried to address gross sins. Instead, those elders that tried to address things that are intolerable to believers or should be intolerable to believers, they were excommunicated. And I was there in the church in Anaheim. And I remember thinking that they just became poisonous. I heard they had unfulfilled ambitions and unforgiven offenses. So there is a very, very deep and long history of covering up sins, not addressing them, not dealing with them, and letting victims live with the pain of their experiences and without any proper clearing up of the past. So that's one example. But in my personal experience, even in my abusive marriage, I tried first. If you want to apply the word of Noah, if anything in my case is simply someone being drunk and naked in his own tent, I did try to cover. Firstly, I covered for years, not telling anybody. Secondly, I then went to those that were just closest to the perpetrator, knowing that their feeling toward him would not change. And they did not only nothing, but they enabled the abuse to continue. Then I went to elders, and again, nothing substantial was done. One brother has tried to go to senior coworkers on my behalf, and as soon as they realized, I believe, as soon as they realized I was bringing up my past experience of sexual assault with Philip Lee, they stonewalled that brother who was trying to get me help in my marriage and who told them this is very serious because what has occurred in her marriage occurred while her husband was a trainer in the full-time training, a board member of the church in LA, an elder in the church in LA, definitely a leading and a responsible one. And the brothers haven't answered him now because I think because to answer him would also lead to having to answer maybe about my assault in 1987. So, and again, with my relative that I mentioned in Arlington, again, elders knew, her elder relatives knew who are leading ones in the church, and nothing was done except to tell her to cover, because we have to cover this family. So she had never been kissed before, and she was assaulted as a minor, and since then has never been the same. There's a lot more I could say, but I'm just speaking about these specific instances of why I'm starting to mention names, and I will continue to, because there have been decades of people trying to address these gross sins, and they have been stonewalled, they have been lied about, they have been misrepresented as spreading baseless rumors, having unforgiven offenses, having unfulfilled ambitions, and speaking false accusations. And perpetrators have been apologized to, victims have been left completely wounded, brokenhearted, unable to go on in some cases dying by suicide, as some of you all know, victims or witnesses who have come forward and have been shamed for doing so. So this is serious, and I'll continue. Thank you.